Tonight, tough choices. Councils across Scotland say mounting costs will mean tax hikes and cuts to vital services.
A member came to me and he says, "What am I going to do if this shuts?" And I must admit, I felt the same way.
Also making the headlines, a 74-year-old woman is the first person to be arrested after breaching new laws creating buffer zones around abortion clinics. MSPs clash over gender recognition reforms with pressure on the Scottish Government to update guidance on single-sex spaces.
The hunger's there to do better and to do more, so I know the players and I know the way they work. That'll be the feeling tomorrow morning as we want more of this and we want to be playing in the biggest games.
I'm John Mackay. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. From schools to leisure centres, bin collections to road maintenance, councils are facing tough choices to maintain services amid mounting pressure on their finances. Local authorities are due to vote in their budgets over the coming weeks, with increases in council tax expected. The Scottish Government has promised to increase local authority funding by more than £1 billion. But councils say higher costs and increased demand means they will still need to cut services. Political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
We've got guys that come here and it's therapy to them.
For its members, this men's shed is more than a place to do some work. But it's struggling to get funding from the council and fears for its future.
A lot of our members have sadly lost their wives, so they're sitting in the house most days themselves. So if they want to come in here, what else are they doing? The member came to me and he says, "What am I going to do if this shuts?" And I must admit, I felt the same way. If this wasn't here, they wouldn't have anything. And it's sad.
Council tax is the biggest lever available to local authorities to raise cash, but in recent years rates have been either frozen or capped. Now that's been removed, councils are looking at increases across the board to balance the books. These are the proposed figures. None have been agreed by councils, apart from that 10% figure in East Lothian. But mounting pressures on local budgets means services are also under threat.
Each year, the Kirkintilloch Canal Festival attracts more than 10,000 people, providing a huge boost for local businesses. But the council has cancelled this year's event due to a lack of funds.
A lot of our businesses rely on this one busy weekend. They bring in external teams, they completely rely on the implications of the Canal Festival, so it will have a huge economic impact.
Obviously it affects footfall and it affects business. We plan for the festival months in advance, and obviously the festival's been cancelled now, so we now need to look at something else within the town.
In Aberdeenshire, the future of autism and ADHD services is in doubt as the council looks to save money.
For people who have been waiting, who have seen that as the light at the end of the tunnel. I've literally had that described to me recently by somebody who got in touch when they found out the news. Having that taken away, it's going to really impact mental health, and to the point where I do worry about the actual lives of some of the local autistic people.
The bulk of council funding comes from the Scottish Government. It's urging tax increases are kept to a minimum.
Isn't the reality that people across Scotland should expect to see their council tax go up considerably as a result of the pressures facing local authorities right now?
There'll be a variety of these decisions, but local authorities have got to explain their decisions and their rationale to their public. But what I'm confident of is the government has given a really strong local government settlement, and that's been acknowledged by local government. Councils
will announce their final decisions on cuts in the coming weeks, with Edinburgh and Glasgow among those due to vote tomorrow. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
The first arrest has been made under legislation to stop protesters gathering outside abortion clinics. A 74-year-old woman was arrested and charged this afternoon in connection with the breach of the exclusion zone near Glasgow's Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Our reporter Caitlin Hutchison is there for us now.
Well, this is the first time that police have used their powers under Scotland's new Safe Access Zones Act, which came into force last year. The legislation was introduced after a long-standing campaign by Back Off Scotland, who've lobbied for these so-called buffer zones. And police were alerted to reports of protesters gathering here outside the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow, despite the restrictions today. We now know that a 74-year-old woman has been arrested and charged in connection with breaching the 200-metre exclusion zone. And it comes just days after J.D. Vance, President Trump's right-hand man, made controversial comments about the law, claiming people living in the areas covered by these buffer zones were being warned by the Scottish Government about praying even in the privacy of their own homes, something that's been rejected wholeheartedly by Scottish ministers. Greens MSP Gillian Mackay, who played a key role in drafting the law, has accused J.D. Vance of spreading misinformation and has called this nonsense. She has reiterated time and time again that the law is about protecting patients who are seeking abortion care. It makes this arrest a significant moment in the enforcement of the legislation and sends a clear message that police can and will act when necessary.
Caitlin, thank you. The First Minister says he does not regret voting for gender recognition reforms. It comes as the Scottish Labour leader, Anas Sarwar, U-turned on his support for the legislation. Mr Sarwar also expressed support for the nurse Sandy Peggy, who is at the centre of an industrial tribunal with NHS Fife, after she objected to sharing the women's changing room with a transgender doctor. Our political editor Colin Mackay is in Parliament. So Colin, what's the latest?
Well, gender recognition reforms were passed here at Holyrood in 2022, but they never actually became law because at that point they were blocked by the then UK Conservative government. That means that the current legislation is the UK Equality Act, which recognises single-sex spaces based on biological sex. Now, the questions now being brought up in the Scottish Parliament are on the back of the industrial tribunal, which involves nurse Sandy Peggy, the transgender doctor Beth Upton and NHS Fife. Scottish Labour leader Anas Sarwar today seems to have changed his mind because he previously backed the gender recognition reforms, but not now.
What's happening right now, I think, is a level of organisational capture where people are going beyond the law when they should be following the law and respecting the Equality Act and protecting single-sex spaces based on biological sex. And this is a mess entirely of the SNP government's making. They have to step in and clear this up.
Yesterday, the Scottish Conservatives brought this up in the Scottish Parliament. They accused the government of cowardice for refusing to make a parliamentary statement. Today, Health Secretary Neil Gray faced further questions, including from his own backbenchers.
I have already written to him on the serious matters arising in the Sandy Peggy case, and I await his detailed response.
When the Cabinet Secretary is meeting Fife Health and Social Care Partnership, will he be asking them to assure him that they are complying with the law in relation to the provision of single-sex facilities for their female members of staff?
Cabinet Secretary. I obviously expect all public bodies to comply with the law to ensure that the rights of all their staff members are being complied with.
When will the Scottish Government bring forward a full debate on the issue of the provision of safe spaces for women, especially those who require to disrobe in connection with their work, such as health employees?
Cabinet Secretary. I've already set out that I expect all public bodies, including health boards, to comply with legislation and the guidance that's in place.
The Industrial Tribunal is not due to resume until July. The First Minister has made it very clear that there will be no government statement on any of this until the legal proceedings have concluded. But there's increasing pressure here on the Scottish Government to at least update the guidance on single-sex spaces. But I think they'll wait till after the tribunal for that, after another court ruling from the Supreme Court is due as well. But before all of that, John Swinney will probably have to deal with this, the First Minister's questions tomorrow.
And you'll be there, Colin. Thank you. The convicted murderer Luke Mitchell has failed to win a court challenge against a decision not to grant him parole. Mitchell, who murdered his girlfriend Jodie Jones in Dalkeith in 2003, claims the process to reject his application for release was unfair. The parole board argued his case was misconceived and Judge Lady Haldane dismissed the petition. The Scottish Government says it's looking to see if it can buy Ardrossan Harbour. Ferry services to Arran are currently operating from Troon as the North Ayrshire port can't accommodate the new Glen Sannox and the Alfred. A major upgrade to the harbour was paused in 2023 due to rising costs. The Transport Secretary, Fiona Hislop, says discussions with the operator Peel Ports around a potential change of ownership are progressing at pace. The Scottish chain Sterling Furniture is making staff redundant to cut costs. The business, which employs more than 400 workers, has not confirmed how many will lose their jobs. It says no stores will close, no sales staff's positions are affected, and that the majority of the roles under threat are in operations positions. Online retailers will be required to report bulk purchases of knives under new laws. They've been proposed following a series of deadly stabbings where weapons were bought on the internet illegally by teenagers. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, says the move will stop knives being resold to minors. Retailers will also have to carry out ID checks at the point of purchase and delivery.
We cannot continue with this online free-for-all that makes it too easy with these lethal loopholes of selling knives and dangerous weapons to children. It has to be closed, and that's why we need everyone to act.
A Scottish archaeologist has uncovered the first tomb of an Egyptian pharaoh since the discovery of Tutankhamun more than 100 years ago. Piers Litherland from Galashiels is a Cambridge University professor and led the team which found the tomb of Thutmose II, thought to be 3,500 years old. Trade unions in Glasgow protested outside the city chambers today against proposed cuts to council jobs and services. Unison, GMB, Unite and the EIS are calling on the city's politicians to set a one-year no-cuts budget ahead of a vote tomorrow. A spokesperson for Glasgow City Council says the law requires councillors to set a balanced budget.
It's sad indictment when we come down here every year, either on the day of the budget or the day before, and it is to demonstrate against a budget we've not really seen yet, but no, there's going to be cuts in it.
Our position for a number of years has been to say, look, set a one-year no-cuts budget, a legal one-year no-cuts budget, not to fix everything, because it wouldn't, but to launch a man's campaign to kind of lobby Westminster and the Scottish Government for more funds for local government.
It's seen as the crown of Dunoon, but the Borough Hall is facing imminent closure if vital funds aren't raised to save the venue. It comes as arts venues across the country are facing a funding crisis. Now some acting A-listers are backing calls to support the iconic Victorian Cultural Centre. Vanessa Taff reports.
Greg Wise here.
And Emma Thompson.
Just saying a few words about the extraordinary Borough Hall.
With the backing of these Hollywood stars, the local hall needs all the help it can get.
It's the most extraordinary building, so beautiful, but inside so alive and vibrant.
Please help as much as you can.
No, do what? At this animation class, it's a sea of creativity. Workshops like this one help a wide range of young local people.
We're working with the most vulnerable people, especially with my project. It's actually a lifeline, this building. It's keeping people socialising, it's giving them access to the arts and even just a wee space to meet up with each other.
The Borough Hall is a cultural cornerstone in this community. It's been a safe haven for artists from across Scotland, offering a place for them to showcase their works.
But this space being given to us for free to use and for free for the public to access is incredibly important. There's nothing better than going to somewhere that is out of the central belt and finding an amazing building and walking in and seeing something you do not expect to see there. And I think that's one of the most valuable things that Dunoon Borough Hall provides in terms of the visual art.
But it's expensive to run and maintain.
This was the very first theatre in Argyll, and over the years it's had many uses. But locals are concerned that if they don't find the vital cash that they need, the doors won't be able to stay open for much longer.
We're trying to raise 60,000 to keep us going through till the end of March. If we don't reach that target, then the hall will close. I think the only asset in the hall is the hall itself, so that's the potential to lose. The hall is quite a big threat to the community in general.
There's a rich history and a lot of special memories for locals connected to the hall.
It was built by the people of Dunoon, which were my ancestors, maybe everybody in Dunoon's ancestors put together to help fund this hall and build this hall. It had the oldest theatre in Scotland, and it helps many different functions. I myself learned to tap dance in it as well.
Fundraising efforts are now underway to save the jewel in Dunoon's crown for future generations. Vanessa Taff, STV News in Dunoon.
Now, Ronnie is here with the sport, and you were in Germany last night, Ronnie. So close.
About 3 hours sleep I've had, but we're powering through. We're going to get there. So close. Almost a historical night for Celtic, but sadly, it wasn't to be, finally, for Celtic and Brendan Rodgers.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Good evening. Callum McGregor says Celtic are hungrier than ever to get back to the Champions League knockouts after an injury-time goal by Bayern Munich ended their dreams of the last 16. Brendan Rodgers' men went toe-to-toe with the German giants and almost took the game to extra time. But for the Parkhead boss, he's confident the performance can benefit the team in the long run.
We've made the progress that made me want to come back. And now we've got to finish the season off strong. Got 2 titles to go for. Get into the Champions League next season. Look to build the squad again. And
there's there to do better than to do more. So I know the players and I know the way they work. That'll be the feeling tomorrow morning as we want more of this and we want to be playing in the biggest games. So yeah, we just have to bank all this, and then when we get the chance next year, make sure we're there, and then obviously we start our work again from there.
For those arriving back in Scotland, pride the overriding emotion.
Listen, I thought it was fantastic. We follow Celtic all over Europe, and last night is one of the best games I've seen us play.
I thought it's been the best in a while, best in a couple of 2 years anyway. Coming for the Dortmund game, I thought it was a write-off, but turned it around. It was a good campaign, I thought.
Stunned, but
they were fantastic. I thought they played brilliantly away from home against one of the top teams in Europe, and yeah, it can be a cruel game sometimes, you know, the way it finished, but I think Brendan and the players, they've got to take a huge amount of pride and belief in what they achieved last night and how they performed.
Rangers Chief Executive Patrick Stewart says their Scottish Cup exit to Queen's Park was a source of shame, but the decision not to sack Philippe Clement was for the long-term interest of the club. The Belgian faced huge pressure from supporters after their elimination from the competition in the 5th round. Elsewhere, Stewart also revealed they're looking to hire a sporting director to oversee all aspects of the footballing department. Derek McInnes says his Kilmarnock players have the character to deal with the battle for the top 6, but admits they must step up to the plate in the final few games before the split. Kelly sit just outside the top half of the table on goal difference despite their recent 3-1 win over St Johnstone, and travel to 3rd place Aberdeen this weekend.
We've got a points tally in mind that we think gives us a chance, and I think that's attainable for us with the games remaining. But we've got to perform each game as it comes. There's a different challenge on Saturday up at Aberdeen. And any time I've spoke to the players over the last few years that don't be dependent on others. Others will let you down. It's just up to us to deal with our own business. And I think if we can take that responsibility on, meet that responsibility head on, then I believe there's good things to happen for us this season.
Finally to rugby, and ahead of their Calcutta Cup clash with England, Scotland's Gregor Brown says they're relishing the prospect of playing in the red-hot atmosphere of Twickenham. The Scots will be looking to bounce back after their recent defeat to Ireland in the previous Six Nations match, which sees them sit now 4th in the table.
The past 2 games at Murrayfield have been unbelievable. The crowd has been fantastic. Singing the anthems and the arriving on the bus has been unreal. And to go and do that away from home at another huge stadium would be unbelievable.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
All your sport from us tonight, John. If you'll forgive me, I'm away for a lie down.
I think you need it.
Thank you.
Ronnie, thank you. Well, it's been cold. I was kind of expecting it to get a bit milder. Well, let's see if it's going to. Sean is here with the weather.
An icy start to the day will give way to a series of oohs and ahs. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. Turning very mild the next couple of days, very wet and very windy. So we've lost the colder, quiet weather. Very unsettled for the time being. You can see the deep shades coming onto the map over the next couple of days, showing where we'll see the worst of the rainfall. The focus, I think, where I've put those red colours across South and East Ayrshire, the likes of Cumnock to Wellington, could be looking at around 60 to 80 millimetres of rain falling in some spots here. Also across Stirlingshire, inland parts of Argyll and Bute, and also the Highlands. So very wet conditions in the next couple of days. And as I say, very windy as well. Friday and Sunday looking like the worst days. Overnight tonight, we've got more rain coming back in from the west, turning quite wet out there for a time. So that holds the temperatures up at about 5 or 6 degrees. Wait until you see tomorrow afternoon's temperatures. A lot milder out there, but not a nice day because we've got lots of rain through the first half of the day, particularly wet for many of us. Heavy bursts of rain. The main band clears away. We do see a wee bit of sunshine coming into the west through tomorrow afternoon, but lots of heavy and blustery showers. There's your temperatures. When was the last time we had 12, 13 on the map? Very mild. That's about the mid-50s in Fahrenheit, but it's not going to feel like it because we will have a blustery wind, particularly around the west coast. And across the islands, we could get gusts up to about 60 or 70 miles per hour around coastal parts on Friday. A lot of rain to come as well. Bit quieter on Saturday, more strong winds and heavy rain to come on Sunday. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Maybe just go back to cold and dry. Scotland Tonight is on at 10:40 with Rona. From all of us here, though, thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.